core actions. So core actions are actions that every character can use regardless of build type. However, despite that, they're also going to be the cornerstone of how each different class, each different race, and how the entire game space functions around this set of core actions. I'm going to give a brief overview of each of the different action types and why I chose to do with them as I did do with them, their action point costs, and how those decisions were made. So first you have attacks. So attacks generally come in three different forms. There's an attack, and it's based off of your weapon, right? So you have attacks with a light weapon cost 1 action point, attacks with a normal weapon or one-handed weapon cost 2 action points, and attacks with heavy weapon cost 3 action points. It is intended at the start of a character's career, a level 1 character has 4 total action points. So that means in order to make an attack with a weapon, as an example, if you had a heavy weapon like a greatsword, it would cost you 3 action points to make an attack. Movement costs 1 action point, but the idea is that each instance of movement allows you to move a number of squares equal to your movement rating, which is determined by your sub-attributes, which I'll get into later in more videos to come. It also takes action points to cast a spell. The number of action points it takes is equal to the spell's level. Pretty straightforward there. It takes action points to use an item, and that is increased by the complexity of the use of that item. So drawing a weapon is very simple, so that costs 1 action point. To apply a healer's kit in the middle of battle is fairly complicated and might cost 2, maybe even 3. It's dependent upon the item. Now, there are some reactive core actions which are going to be new in how they interact with the game space. First is block. This means that you can use a shield to actively block an enemy's attack. How action points are used reactively and how they are used actively on your turn will be explained in more detail in the initiative video that's coming up, but essentially you can use your action points outside of your turn in order to use these reactive defensive actions. So the first one is block, which uses the shield's rating to prevent damage. There's parry, which uses your weapon to negate an attack completely. There is withstand, which you use your armor to absorb damage and blows. Most notably, this is a replacement for reflex saves, where instead of trying to avoid the damage from the fireball, you just depend on your armor to soak it. And then you also have avoid, which is the other side of the coin, which is instead of using your armor to absorb those kinds of attacks, you just try to avoid them completely by dodging out of the way. And those are the basic core actions that we have so far. Obviously, there's going to be a lot more detail as the system develops, but that gives you a general idea, I think, of what to expect when dealing with core actions.